Okay, we're recording live.
Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. We got some awesome guests here for you today. Our guest today is an engineer, an entrepreneur, and environmentalist who cares deeply about the impact of climate change on future generations. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. As always, our sponsor today is Hollyhock, dedicating help to creating a better future via education and personal sharing. But without further ado, guys, we're super stoked. Scott Sinclair. Scott, how you doing today, man? It's so good to see you. It's so good to talk to you again.
I'm awesome, Devin. Yeah, great to see you too, and looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, hey, Scott, great to see you. We've done a bunch of stuff together, and so this is really cool to have you on our show. Yeah. Finally, we've been talking about it for quite a while, and now it's actually become real. So, but what we do, hey, Dev, the beginning of every one of our shows is we do something called two truths or several truths and a lie, or a couple of lies. And so I'm going to read out a couple of statements here that Scott has provided us, and we're going to have to guess which is the lie. Okay,
let's go.
So you ready?
Yep.
All righty. Number one, I lived in the tropical rainforest for a year on a remote wildlife reserve in Costa Rica without electricity or running water. Scott, yeah, I could believe Scott. Yeah, this is Scott we're talking to, so I believe. Number two, oh God, I had a mean malfunction during my very first parachute jump and had to pull my reserve chute.
Oh no!
Oh, I've never heard of anybody with a story like that.
Pretty sketchy. I don't know.
On their first, yeah.
Is he acting? Is he
acting? Yes, that's right. Okay, number three. I once paddled my whitewater kayak over Englishman River Falls over a drop of roughly 30 feet.
Damn, dude.
Oh, now I know that you're a pretty serious whitewater kayaker as well. So, gosh, these are getting good. Okay, number four. There's a fourth one here. I met the Secretary General of the United Nations and Dr. Jane Goodall, during an event called the Children's Earth Summit in Soweto, South Africa.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's really cool, too. Oh, I don't know.
Who is this guy?
I don't know.
What the heck, dude?
Superman. We got Superman.
They're just all lies.
Yeah.
I'm a good storyteller.
Well, just a facade, I know.
Two truths and a lie. So four lies.
Yeah, four lies. Four lies. It's all bullshit. Okay, what do you think, Dev?
Oh man, that's like, it all seems like pretty legit. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. Okay, you know what? Maybe it's like it's a little play on footage there. Maybe 15 feet instead. Well, yeah. I don't know what else to go for. So let's say it was
okay. You're saying paddle whitewater
kayak
over Englishman River Falls over
a little truth there.
Okay, 30-foot drop. You're saying is actually 15. Okay, so that's the line. I'm actually gonna say the parachute. I'm saying maybe he had a malfunction one time, but on his first jump, I mean, I don't think that. Oh my God. Yeah. So I think it's the parachute.
Lock it in.
Lock him in. We're locked. Scotty.
There you go, guys. Well, sorry, rejected. You guys failed. So actually, no. In fairness, it's a bit of a trick game here for me because all of them are partially true.
Okay.
But the only one that isn't completely true is the living in the wildlife reserve in Costa Rica. I was there for about 6 months, not a year. And while I was there, we actually didn't start with running water, but we installed a rainwater collection system and ended up creating a gravity drain running water setup for ourselves. So it was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so
we got to hear about the rest of them though now. What's going on here?
This is crazy. Yeah,
sure. So like, definitely the parachute jump. I was 19 years old, and back in the day, they didn't make you jump with somebody your first jump. So I was solo. And this was outside Edmonton, little place, and I went up in this little Cessna and had to climb out on the wing strut of a tiny little plane. The door flaps open and the guide says to me, okay, hang on to the wing strut and then look up And there's like a little dot on the thing, and he says, count to 10 and let go. So I counted to 10. I looked up and I let go, and I'm like screaming. I'm terrified of heights, right?
Yeah, me too.
And so I'm falling, and the first chute automatically is deployed by your guide partially. And what happened was it was in a great big ball. And so it was all tangled up with the lines, and it kind of partially opened, and I was going pretty slowly, but the drag from the first chute pulls you upright.
Wow.
And essentially it slows you down, but then you look up and you're like, that's not going to do it, right? And so you had done all this training, and you go 1, 2, 3, and you pull your rip cord. And so I did it, and when I pulled the rip cord, it releases the first chute. There's a couple little automated carabiners. And when it released that first chute, it was like jumping off of a skyscraper. Like you literally fall head first. You go from being upright to going face first, diving for the ground.
Good God.
And then about 500 feet later, your second chute deployed, and you hear this big snap.
Yeah.
And by then it was like 1,000 feet from the ground.
Good
right?
God.
It was yeah. And you know, the whole time I was completely calm. I was just, it was like a slow motion dream almost.
Wow.
And then I got to the ground and landed safely, and everybody was freaking out. And I got to the ground, and the guide's like, so did you hang on to the handle of the ripcord? Because apparently it's got this like cable in it, and you if you just let go of it, they can't find it. It's gone, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I didn't remember to hang on to the handle.
That's the question.
Come on, you guys. What the heck?
Holy smokes.
So I went again the same day. I thought, I got to do this again. I got to jump back on the horse because I'll probably never do it again if I don't.
Right.
And the next jump, it worked fine. Super fun.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a lot of great views. But
wow.
Yeah, so that was my parachuting career.
You think out of a near-death experience, most people would be like, you know what, that's good for me. Not really want to do that again. Like, oh, let's go back up there. You know, looking to conquer that one. Didn't really work out the first time. What?
That's
well,
insanity.
They gave me a deal. It was only like
a deal. There you go.
Right?
They sucked you in with the deal.
The deal. Oh, come on. Oh my God, the deal. That's crazy. That's totally nuts.
Yeah. So then Englishman River Falls is on Vancouver Island. It's just outside Nanaimo, and I was on my way out to Tofino. You guys like Tofino, and we were going surfing, but we had our kayaks. We take our kayaks out to Tofino and surf in the waves there.
For sure.
So we just had a little pit stop at Englishman River Falls, and we walked over and we're like, hey, that looks not too bad. And we looked in the guidebook, and it's like, hey, you can paddle this. So we just walked off of the bridge, popped into the little pool, and launched over this giant waterfall. It's super fun. Wow, they basically, all of the water from the falls goes into a giant pool, and it aerates the water at the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
So when you hit the bottom, it's just like a big vat of feathers. You land, and you sink into this bubbly water. Wow. And there's no surface tension, so there's no impact when you hit.
Right.
So it was just like flowing into this amazing sort of fluffy world of sinking, and then you come up, and you have to roll back up. And so we did that 3 or 4 times.
Really? Day. Wow,
yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
wow.
Very fun.
You were with your nutty friend there, Brad, were you?
No, I was with my other nutty friends. There's definitely a few of them.
Yeah, a bunch of party friends, but the nutty.
Not the party friends, they're the nutty friends. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then
and then Jane Goodall here as well.
Yeah, so we'll get into this a little bit later, but I've done a lot of travel, and I ended up in Johannesburg for this event with this Indian environmental group that I was working for, and we were participating in an event called the Children's Earth Summit. And it was so cool. And in that Children's Earth Summit, I made a commitment to basically spend my life fighting to try and protect the planet for the future children.
Right.
And there was about 200 youth leaders from all over the world that came together, and we did all these activities, and we basically signed this declaration that said we were all going to spend the rest of our lives working on protecting the planet.
Wow.
And as a part of that event, we got to meet the Secretary General, Kofi Annan.
You did? Oh, it's Kofi Annan. Wow.
He came and visited this, we called it the Soweto Mountain of Hope, or Somaho.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, those acronyms stand for Southwestern Townships. That's what Soweto is. And,
didn't know that.
And so Somaho was the Soweto Mountain of Hope, and it was this this old derelict park that had been turned into this beautiful sort of area where all the community members could come and gather and support each other. And they basically transformed this area that was crime-ridden before into a beautiful park. And Jane Goodall was there, and many other, the Gaia Foundation from the UK was there. There was a lot of amazing individuals there. Very fun.
Wow. So like when you were like, okay, how did we get into this? So when you were a kid, you said that you wanted to be a lawyer or something, right? You wanted to be a lawyer, and then you had some kind of a change, a switch. What made you change? Like, what made you, okay, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be an engineer. I want to do this. And now I want to help, protect our planet. Like, what were the steps? Because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, and I did a talk yesterday downtown for a big engineering company called Fluor, and a lot of young engineers, like 60 engineers. And it was like, the whole question is like, how do you, like, everybody wants to do something, but nobody knows what to do. What's that first little step? Like, how do we start this new journey on helping to protect our planet? Everybody, I believe that everybody wants to help. It's just they have no idea what to do, and people are just too busy, they think. So what was your little things there that kind of...
Yeah, my journey was pretty evolving. Like I started off as you said, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Somehow I had it in my head that I wanted to be a lawyer, right? Yeah. It was like and that was basically because I had this story that success was about making money.
Right.
If you could make lots of money and be rich, that was how you succeeded in life, and you won the game, right?
Right.
And I sort of had this idea in my head, and somehow I shifted from being a lawyer to becoming an engineer, and I think that was just more my aptitudes. But I still had this vision in my mind, was I'm going to be rich one day, because like that's what it's the American dream, right?
Right.
How can you
house with a white picket fence?
And our family was not that wealthy. We we lived on a farm, and we grew up reusing everything. Yes. My dad was the original environmentalist. He literally would go to the dump and bring back more stuff than we took there so that we could reuse it and build it into useful things. And
sure.
And so basically I was inspired when I was in my 30s, my early 20s. I was off doing whitewater kayaking and skiing and spending lots of time in nature.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that this seeking financial success was kind of empty. It really wasn't making me happy.
Right.
And I had an event where I was in a pretty significant avalanche, and it was another near-death experience that really freaked me out. It was a massive avalanche the size of a football field, and I literally watched giant trees snap in front of me. And and I'm sitting there on the mountain, and I realized, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? And I felt like I got this second chance. And
Right.
I gotta do something. I gotta have impact, right?
Yeah.
I gotta have a legacy. And so I from that point on, I shifted everything. I sold my shares in my first business that was really successful. I had achieved my dreams of starting to become rich, and I had saved a bit of money. And so me and two of my best friends bought a $300 van.
Yeah.
And we went to the junkyard and took it to my dad's farm,
Yeah.
and we basically got $500 worth of parts and rebuilt the van. And we had 3 full-size spare tires. We had a spare alternator. We had all these parts from the junkyard. We drove that van from Alberta all the way to Costa Rica, and actually eventually to Panama.
Wow.
So it made it almost to South America in that $300 van, and sold it for $1,500 in Costa Rica eventually. So, but it was many adventures along the way. And what ended up happening was, at first it was just an adventure, and I was, okay, I had figured out that getting rich wasn't my path. It wasn't what success looked like for me. So I ended up volunteering for this nonprofit organization in Costa Rica that had a private wildlife reserve. And I ended up being the volunteer manager of this place in the tropical rainforest and beautiful lowlands of Costa Rica near the border of Panama.
Yeah.
Right on the Caribbean. And I spent the better part of a year in the rainforest with the machete, walking around, patrolling the borders of this land for poachers, and doing projects on the little housing center that they had built for volunteers. And woke up every morning to the sounds of hummingbirds and howler monkeys.
Yes.
It's a really
monkeys.
special place. I got to see like 60 different species of snakes while I was there. And really it was this amazing time to reflect. And as I was reading books on leadership and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I kind of came to this point, this decision that I knew I was an engineer. That's what I was trained for. I knew I had entrepreneurial spirit. I already had a partnership in a business by the time I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I also had this strong drive to sell, to make money. And then I kind of figured out that being an environmentalist was the missing piece to my emptiness. And and what ended up happening, I was in this beautiful area in the tropical rainforest, and down there they didn't really have roads even.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It was basically hiking paths between all of the different property owners. And so I was walking down this hiking path one day to my neighbor's property, and I came over this hill and I looked out, and like all of the trees, as far as I could see, had been cut down. And this was an area that I had grown to know the animals. I had grown to know the frogs and the snakes and the spiders and the birds. And I started crying. I was just devastated by how they had destroyed this beautiful area of the primary forest. Wow. And so I actually knew the guy. And I went and talked to this man in Spanish, and we were having a conversation. I said, "What happened? Like, how did this be your, what was your decision?" And he looked at me and he said that his daughter had turned 10 years old, and she was at the end of elementary school, and they had to make a decision as a family on if she was going to keep going to school. And they didn't have enough money to send her to school. Wow. And this logging company came to them and offered them $50 a tree. Yeah. And his property was not huge, but they got about $1,000 to destroy this huge area of primary forest. And each of those trees had a canopy that was probably 50 meters in diameter.
Wow. Wow.
And all you think of all of the birds and all of the snakes and all of the other creatures. And I thought, you know what? If I was in the shoes of that man, I would probably make the same decision.
I know.
Even though I really care about this stuff. And I realized at that point that if we don't find solutions for people everywhere to look after their children, we're never going to save the planet. Because people will always choose their children over the environment.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fundamental in all of us to protect our children, to seek their future, their safety.
Yeah.
And so that kind of was a real switch for me. I got to this point where, wow, we have to provide solutions for people. It really is what the missing link is.
Yeah. Wow. And then so then you returned, and now you've got SES, and you do all the building. It's incredible what you guys do.
Yeah. So
what was the time period between that coming out of Costa Rica?
So from Costa Rica, I started getting a little more thoughtful about what I wanted to do with my next steps. And I ended up going to India and working with Dr. Vandana Shiva for better part of a year on her environmental education programs. And I thought, what if we educate our children? This is part of the answer, right? And also doing projects in India. We're cleaning up garbage in India, going through the parks and the streets, and working with big groups of kids, and working on our organic seed saving and what kinds of composting and organic agriculture could we be sort of teaching others how to use to stop using chemicals all the time, and thinking about climate change. And I tell you, living in India, I experienced 47 degrees Celsius while being on an ashram, and they didn't have electricity. And we're literally in the middle of the day, you would go in the mud hut and pour water over yourself and lie on the floor, because that was the only way you could possibly try and cool off. Yeah. And it just developed this deep sense of compassion and fear about what the future of our planet looks like for if you have to live with climate change.
Yeah. I mean, right now in India, they're experiencing unprecedented heat wave now, and we're really early in the season, right? I mean, in the high 40s. Yeah.
Yeah, I read an article, Pakistan and India are experiencing plus 50 degrees Celsius right now.
Right now.
And
early May.
And one of the things that's happening is it's causing rotating blackouts. Their power infrastructure can't keep up with all of the air conditioning loads, as well as all of the other things that need to happen. And just imagine what that's like. Most people in North America don't have a clue. They never experienced those kinds of temperatures, and probably have never been in a regular power outage.
Right.
And so that really made a deep impact on me. And I made this commitment in Johannesburg with all of these other youth leaders to spend my life trying to make this better. Yeah. And so I came back to Canada, and I was talking to my uncle, who had run this energy efficiency business. Sinclair Energy Services is his business. So I actually ended up making dinner for my uncle's clients. And I had learned how to cook some Indian food when I was in Delhi.
Okay.
And so I made this wonderful Indian meal, and they said at the end of the meal, "Hey, do you want a job?" And but I didn't really want a job. I wanted to build a business. I knew that, and so I ended up. They were my first clients. And I ended up starting to work for them doing energy conservation work in BC government buildings. So that was back in 2002. And we've now built SES Consulting, up to 20 engineers who work on decarbonizing buildings and providing solutions to our clients on how we can keep heating our buildings, save money, and reduce the environmental footprint while switching from carbon-based heating sources over to electricity-based heating sources largely.
Right. Okay. Wow, that's incredible.
So like this story of electric vehicles decarbonizing our transportation sector, electrification of our buildings is one of the simplest pathways to avoiding fossil fuels. And certainly there are cases where renewable natural gas can provide some of the answer for certain buildings, but the trend that we're seeing across the world is electrify everything.
Right, electrify everything. So that's interesting you said that, because I remember, and I haven't heard about it for a while. I know Elon Musk was developing like some kind of a battery pack for buildings where you could, bring in the energy, store it, and then they could use it as it's needed. But I haven't heard anything about that for a while. Are they still on that? Or?
Yeah, I'd say it's less about battery storage and more about heat pumps, Nigel.
Oh, is that right?
So,
okay.
Heat pumps are kind of the silver bullet. So the beauty of heat pumps is that they provide highly efficient heating while also providing air conditioning.
That's
so
right.
One of the other pieces is that as global warming and climate change really start having more and more impact, all sorts of buildings are going to need air conditioning that never had them before.
I know.
And so, what if we could get this magical product that reduced your gas use by 80%, your overall energy use by 80%, and also it provided air conditioning?
Yeah.
That's what a heat pump is.
Right.
Heat pumps are this amazing technology that are really transforming our world.
It's interesting, that you talk about heat pumps and air conditioning. And I mean, we've all of us have been really fortunate to travel quite a bit, for business and for pleasure and whatever. But it's hard to realize, like, living here in Canada, in our house, we don't have air conditioning. But most of the planet lives in some kind of air conditioning, like most of the kind of industrial world anyway. It just blows my mind. You go to Malaysia, you go to Thailand, you go into any building, and it's just cranked. The air conditioning's always cranked, and it's something that I don't know if we take. I mean, last summer we hit some crazy numbers here. We're over 40 degrees here in Vancouver for extended periods, which I don't think has ever happened. And now we're even considering getting some kind of heat pump or whatnot inside our house, which I'd never even dreamed of would we be doing in Canada. Or in Vancouver, on the West Coast anyway, maybe in Toronto, but.
And most people don't know what a heat pump is, or even how air conditioning works. But the simple metaphor that most people can relate to is a refrigerator. So most people have a refrigerator, and most people also understand that a refrigerator is cold on the inside, but it actually creates heat on the back of the refrigerator. Wherever a refrigerator is, it's pulling the heat from the inside of the fridge out of the fridge and rejecting it into the back.
Right.
And it's basically moving heat from the inside of the fridge to the outside of the fridge. And that's how it makes things cold. Right. And it uses a compressor to do that.
Yeah.
And essentially that same idea applies for a house. So all you do is you put the heat generation equipment inside the house, and you put the cold generation equipment outside the house. And so you're pulling the heat from outside the building into the building. And you just use some simple refrigeration pipes to transfer that energy. And the beauty is it uses, they call it a coefficient of performance.
Yes.
So you basically get 4 times as much energy inside the house as you put in electricity into the compressor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so much more efficient. It's because you're just moving the energy rather than generating it from scratch.
Right. Yeah, because we have a heat pump in our house actually. And yeah, because it's kind of like the same thing. You go over like Southeast Asia. I mean, in Asia, right? They have them all over the place. But here they have one. We're like, oh, that's so cool. But then when we use like our baseboard heaters, we realize like the bill is way higher. And if we just use the heat pump, it's not bad at all. I'm just like, oh, what the hell? So we just use the heat pump now, and it's an AC too. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, so it's not going to be actually a very difficult change for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And the great news is governments around the world are realizing that this technology has huge potential. And I think I said in a presentation I was doing the other day that this is the most exciting time of my life.
Right.
So many people, I think, get this doom and gloom message that climate change is going to destroy the planet and that we should all be scared and afraid. But what's the reality is that our technologies and our systems are ready to start transforming everything we do. Wow. And I think, Nigel, you have an electric car.
Yeah. 10 years now. Can't believe it. It's ridiculous. 10 years.
So I got mine 2 years ago only, but I've had a heat pump for 10 years. And really sooner or later, everybody's going to be using these products. Yeah. And it's easy for me to imagine 10 years from now that more than half of the people will have heat pumps in their homes and they will be driving electric vehicles, and that our environmental footprint from our energy systems is going to be half of what it used to be.
Right. Yeah.
And that just gives me tremendous hope.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece of that is that it's an incredible business opportunity.
I know.
My business is thriving. I have so many cool opportunities right now. YVR, the international airport in Vancouver, has 4 million square feet of commercial property.
Sure.
It's the largest building in BC.
Yeah.
By itself. And I just did a project, and we envisioned how they can reduce their environmental footprint by 94%.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
94%.
Oh my God.
And the beauty of that is it has a payback of 11 years.
Wow.
So financially, by borrowing money and investing in that infrastructure, we can reduce the impact of that huge building by 94% and actually make money off of it. YVR will be more financially solid. They'll reduce their operating costs while they do it.
Wow.
It's just a no-brainer, really, at that point.
Yeah, and so this is the hope I have, and the excitement I have for what's happening in our world.
Yeah,
we see transformation everywhere we look.
We do, and on a scale we've never seen before. The way things are just taking off. I mean, like you said, we've had electric cars. I've had electric car for 10 years. I was the only. Well, there were others around, but not a lot. And now it's just like everywhere you look, everybody's gotten them. And I think as humans, we're kind of funny. It's always the first off that we're just, but then when things take hold, it just takes off. Like, it's just like, I mean, this electric car thing has just gone bananas in the past, it's just like a year and a half. I mean, everybody's on board. All the car makers are on board. And even in Ontario there with the announcement of the massive factory going in, was it Ford or whatnot, for electric car plant, putting all these people back to work. It used to be people were protesting, placards, kill the electric car. They're putting us out of business. Well, now thousands of people are going back to work because they're building electric cars in Ontario. So,
I'm a big believer in inspiration instead of desperation as an agent of change. And I find electric vehicles so inspiring.
Oh,
and having one,
they're so much fun to drive
they
too.
are so fast.
So
And it's
freaking
the
fast. It's
coolest piece of technology I've
scary.
ever owned.
I know, me
Right?
too. I've had that. Like, I get in this thing every day, and 10 years later, and I sit in there, and I'm like a little kid, and because I get all my updates, it updates itself every week or whatever, all the new software and this stuff, and I'm just like a little kid. I don't think I've ever owned anything more exciting than that. It is a Tesla. I get a plug for Elon and what he's doing there with Tesla, but it's just like, it's the best freaking thing I've ever done. And telling when I first bought it, people, you're an idiot, and I would have a friend of ours is a car critic. He has a TV show in Ontario, and he knew that I had one of these, so he called me up. So, Nigel, how do you think about it's the best thing I've ever done. Incredible. I'd rant and rave about it. He goes, that's impossible. Blah, blah. It's just a fad. I'm like, no. And then he called me 6 months later. So how's the Tesla going? It's incredible. It's, this is the best thing I've ever done. And even now, so many years later, I get poked and whatever, and it's just like it's just amazing. They're amazing. I should probably be a salesman for these guys, but it's just revolutionized everything.
The challenge is heat pumps aren't as exciting, right? They're like,
well, they could be.
Yeah. You don't have, your neighbor calling you over and saying, hey, look at my new heat pump. Wow, this is so cool, right? It's just not what happens. So, I can tell you the impact potential from heat pumps is as big as it is with electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's how I've built my business. And I don't know how we're doing for time, Nigel, but
we're okay there.
Certainly, one of the things that I started thinking about is it's not just about what we do and what kind of mission and purpose I have with my career, but how we go about creating a business is just as important. And I always come back to, how can we make this more local? How can we improve life in our backyard? And Nigel, I know you do all these great charitable work around helping homeless people in the street, and cleaning up beaches. And I think we have to think about how we can have impact in every part of our lives.
Yeah, I agree. And then there's something here I'm going to give another little plug out, because that's where I met you. And it's Hollyhock, and they're the sponsor here today as well. And just conclaves of people sharing ideas like this, and podcasts like this. It's, it does change the world. And I did a little talk I did yesterday, and lots of people sitting around. It's just like, everybody's wondering, how do I change the world? But it's just a little tiny step that each person does. And as a collective, and I use cutter ants as an example, because everybody's carrying their little stick to the nest. The one at the front may not, and never meet the one at the back, but they're all doing collectively. Like, we may not know somebody in London or in Indonesia that's doing really cool stuff like you're doing, but collectively we do make a freaking huge change in the world. And it's so inspiring. And then places like Hollyhock here in Vancouver, and also on Cortes Island, where they're bringing these mastermind groups together of people that are really making changes in the world and sharing ideas. It's absolutely incredible. And I thank Chu, a friend of ours, Chu, for introducing me to you, and from Hollyhock as well. And these type of things are just unbelievable. And I know you're a big supporter of Hollyhock as well. So
yeah, I am. I mean, and I think the social venture community is just so inspiring. It's about how can we imagine corporations as agents of change?
Yes.
And we about 10 years ago, we certified our company as a
B Corp, right?
B Corp.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that, which is, generally I like to explain that to people as the idea of a benefit corporation. Yes. How can a corporation produce benefit for society? And you literally have to change your legal infrastructure of your company to say that protecting society and protecting the environment are actually just as important bottom line outcomes as making profit. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, wow, what a great idea. What if the thriving business entrepreneurial minds of our world put our efforts into making society a better place, and making and protecting our environment, and helping people, you know. And this is one of the things that I started coming around to is, you know, what if we treated our employees better than all of the other corporations out there? Because what I learned in business is the best ways to create change is to be successful.
Yes.
If you are profitable and you have long-term retention with your employees, and if your clients love working with you, your competitors notice that.
Sure.
And they start copying what you're doing.
Right.
So I just, you know, lead by example has so many levels to it.
Yes.
And so we want to lead by example in our lives, but we also, with our businesses, we need to demonstrate that this business model is more successful than the old school, by the book, let's make as much profit as we possibly can,
right,
and rape the planet.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, like this is not going to work anymore, because nobody's going to want to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
no,
and
it's a significant point. And I noticed that what you guys do, you do something special on Earth Day as well. Is that right? For your employees?
Yeah.
With your employees. Yeah.
We're just talking with it was actually sitting around with a bunch of friends from the social venture community.
Yeah.
You know, drinking beers at a pub.
Yeah.
And we said, you know, it's Earth Day. We love Earth Day. We should celebrate this. It should be like it's the Earth's birthday.
Yes.
Pardon me. And what if Earth Day was a holiday? And what if Earth Day was a holiday that we celebrated as much as Independence Day?
Right.
You know, if we had just as much energy and time from our society going into it as, and then we said, what if instead of it just being an ordinary holiday, we actually did something to give a gift back to the earth on its birthday, to go and try and make it better.
Yeah.
And let's have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So we got my friends at Recollective Consulting and Pulse Energy. I don't know if you remember those guys. And we got Eco Justice was a nonprofit group, and these are all businesses that are in our neighborhood in the downtown east side in Vancouver. And we started pulling our teams together and just creating a day where we could go and do volunteer work in our communities that would make a difference and try and improve the situation for either people or the environment.
Right.
And we would have fun doing it. And we had a big party at the end of it.
Fantastic.
We just came back together and celebrated what we did. And we shared videos. And so we've been doing that for 10 years now.
Wow. I didn't know it was for 10 years. Fantastic, you guys. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
so we call it Earthwork Day. There's a Facebook page, Earthwork Day. If anybody's interested, they could check it out and create your own Earthwork Day, where we go and have some fun improving things in your community.
I think that's fantastic. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. And like we said, people are always looking to help and do something, but you don't quite know where to start or what to do. So, if you're inside a company or if you're a leader of a company, it's a great idea to start something like that. Or if you're inside a company, poke your boss or whatnot and say, hey, it's Earth Day. Maybe we could go all volunteer together and do something really cool and help our planet. And then like you said, like once you take that, things just start moving and getting momentum and critical mass. And well, that's fantastic, Scott. Really, we really appreciate you being on our show here. And man, I learned so much more about you. I knew a bunch about you, but I didn't know fantastic the stuff that you've been doing and being able to do. And when's the book coming out? That's all I got to say. I mean, come on. That's like, wow, there's so much incredible material here that needs to be shared with the world. And I'm going to encourage you to write a book.
Thanks, Nigel. Well, one day, maybe. My wife just finished writing a book. So
yes, that's right. She did. Yeah.
She's taken on that mandate for our family, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. I mean, Forrest could help. Forrest could help you write your book, you know?
Yeah, that would be great. But yeah, so really great talking to you guys. Nice to catch up.
Yeah,
and,
no, thanks for all you do. You know, you're just a beacon or a beacon of light. Yeah. So thanks. And all the cool stuff that you do, skiing and mountain biking. A lot of fun. You have a lot of fun. Parachuting, not killing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
inspiration. Well, we'll have to get out there on the slopes or a trail someday soon.
Yes, absolutely. We do. Yeah. So I guess, Dev, you want to wrap her up?
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for checking in. We're going to wrap it up on that. If you guys like to know more about Scott, we'll put all the links in the description of the video. Please like, share, and subscribe as always. And thank you so much for coming on today. We're going to have you back. And it was just a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Devin.
Thanks, Scott.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.